So verse 16 is going to lead us to personal sense of destiny. All these verses are talking about personal sense of destiny. For this reason, we are not discouraged, despondent. On the contrary, even though this outer man of ours, the body, is constantly wasting away, the inner man of ours is being renewed day by day. Personal sense of destiny come in, so we are about to cover the doctrine of personal sense of destiny. Personal sense of destiny, problem-solving device number 6.1. A personal sense of destiny is problem-solving device number 6 of the doctrinal fortification that protects the soul. This is the doctrinal fortification. My pastor called it the flot line. I believe the flot line is much better named than fortification. It is the transitional problem-solving device between spiritual infancy and spiritual maturity. It is the transition between the spiritual life and the sophisticated spiritual life. The sophisticated spiritual life is not a pretentious word. It does not connote any of that, any snobbery. Sophisticated simply means that it is intricate in its thinking. It's complex. The Lord Jesus Christ was indeed complex, and people hate that. Christians hate that. Christians hate me using such words as sophisticated. They hate such things as me saying that the spiritual life is not simple. Oh, it's simple in the sense of us executing it, but once you advance to this superior thinking, there's no way that you're going to remain simple. Your thinking is going to become sophisticated. I try to explain it in very simple terms, but they are not simple. That's the best I can do, just going simple and repeating it. But you yourself, your thinking is going to become extremely sophisticated. Well, personal sense of destiny, what is that? Point 2. A personal sense of destiny is the greatest sponsor of the change from human viewpoint to divine viewpoint in the life of the believer. So you already know that you are mandated not to emphasize human viewpoint. That is part of the cosmic system. You are mandated to emphasize divine viewpoint. And how do you emphasize it? By learning doctrine on a daily basis. Human viewpoint can include all these things of emphasizing the body. Oh, it is emphasize on the body, worrying about the body and this and that, and let it affect your happiness. That is all human viewpoint. You must emphasize divine viewpoint in the life of the believer. We see divine viewpoint versus human viewpoint in Isaiah 55 verses 8 and 9. Isaiah 55 verses 8 and 9. Let's look at that one right now. Isaiah 55 verses 8 and 9. Here we are. Thank you, Isaiah. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. So you have to understand that your thoughts, whatever your ideas of happiness are, whatever you are worrying about, those are not the thoughts of God. Your human viewpoint has nothing to do with the plan of God. Your human viewpoint has to be replaced with His thoughts, Christ's thinking. Because lo my thoughts because not my thoughts, your thoughts. So my thoughts are not your thoughts. Your ways, your ways, my ways. Naum Yehovah, says the Lord. And so this is the mandate for us. Well, it's telling us that our human viewpoint and His divine viewpoint are mutually exclusive. Okay. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. So this personal sense of destiny makes that transition of human viewpoint versus divine viewpoint. What am I saying? Is that even though you're advancing in the plan of God, you're still using rebound, faith rest technique, grace orientation, you're still kind of full inside of your soul with human viewpoint. That's the reason why you need to advance to the point that divine viewpoint takes the priority. It overrules, takes precedence than any human viewpoint. This obviously is the transition from gate 4 to gate 5 of the divine power sphere. For in gate 5, that's when you start already developing personal love for God the Father. And how can you love personal love for God the Father if you have not reached personal sense of destiny yet? So personal sense of destiny starts developing in gate 4 when you're in your transition to gate 5. And there's no way you're going to be able to use the superior problem-solving devices if you do not have a personal sense of destiny yet. Point 3, a personal sense of destiny cannot be formed unless problem-solving device number 5 is formed first. This is doctrinal orientation. There is no sense of destiny without a significant amount of doctrine in the believer's soul. So, problem-solving power option number 1 and power option number 2, gate 4, they form doctrinal orientation, the problem-solving device number 5. So there's no personal sense of destiny without being oriented to doctrine, doctrinal orientation. How can you possibly have this confident expectation about the future without you having all this doctrine inside of your soul first? This is what differentiates between the faith rest technique and hope. So here we have faith, here we have hope, a confident expectation about the future. If there's no confident expectation about the future, then you kind of diminish that hope into faith. That's the difference between faith. Faith is you applying the promise, but hope is you applying the promise with reference to the future, and you become confident about what's coming up ahead. I don't know if I was able to explain it well, but that's the best I can do. Let's continue with our points. There is no sense of destiny without a significant amount of doctrine in the believer's soul. So point 4. Personal sense of destiny is self-orientation to the plan of God. In short, it is the application of advanced doctrines in advanced circumstances. So we finally understand advanced doctrines and personal sense of destiny, and the circumstances, the pressures become more advanced, more complicated, and therefore you obviously need more advanced doctrine in that situation. It is very sophisticated. It is a whole lot of thinking. The thinking dynamics are great, much superior than those of the dispensation of Israel. Even faith rest, I mentioned the cocktail of mixing all these promises together. How about a little Romans 8:28? How about a little Romans 8:38? How about a little Job chapter 5? You mixed all those, and you are completely at rest inside of your soul. How about a little bit of Psalm 116 verse 10 with a little bit of Psalm 23, and you mix it also with Hebrews chapter 13 verse 5 and 6. Oh, a wonder, you're completely rest. You form a nice cocktail. And this is sophisticated thinking, but obviously it becomes much more sophisticated here in the advanced problem-solving devices. Okay. Point 5. Personal sense of destiny is related to eschatological doctrines. If you do not know what eschatology is yet, it relates to the end times, beginning with the rapture, tribulation, second advent, the millennium, all that stuff about the end. And the personal sense of destiny is related to what's coming up ahead. After all, if you're not confident as to what you're going to receive at the judgment seat of Christ and what you're going to have in eternity future, how can you have a personal sense of destiny? Therefore, personal sense of destiny is confident expectation about the future and in relation with phase 3 doctrines, eschatological doctrines. And we have 2 Peter chapter 3 verses 10 and 14 that it talks about the destruction of the old universe, the old earth and the old universe, and now the new universe and the new earth is going to be created. We're going to have to go over this passage in detail later on. Also, one of the doctrines that are is related to phase 3. It is related to the resurrection, Hebrews chapter 11. After all, in Hebrews 11, we see how Abraham, he did not build a mansion here on this earth. He was waiting for his mansion, his cities in heaven. And so that expectation, that confident expectation about the future determined a lot as to how he lived here. He was one of the wealthiest men in the ancient world. He was so influential, so much that a lot of the leaders of Egypt, the pharaohs, the new kings, Ahimelech, and all these, they respected him. He was just as influential as these kings and pharaohs, but he still decided to live in tents. Why did he live in tents instead of building himself a great mansion? Because he was looking forward to the city that was a mansion that was going to be given to him in eternity future. This is a personal sense of destiny. Hebrews 11 is another chapter we're going to have to go over. We're not done with these yet, don't worry. Point 6, personal sense of destiny solves problems related to worries and depressions about the physical body. Our passage, 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 16, and all the way to verse 18. And this is important because this is something huge, especially nowadays. Nowadays, we're not the same people as we were 20 years ago. Yes, the sin nature is always the same, but the way we manifest it, the way we allow it to control us, has increased. Arrogance has increased in society as a whole. That's why normal thinking has almost vanished. That's why neurotic and psychotic types have become a normal thing now in today's society. And you see social media influencers expressing their psychosis and neurosis, and they're praised. They're worshipped almost as if it's normal thinking, and people want to be like that. And guess what? To the extent that everyone's arrogant, to the extent that everyone seems like they're just all the way up there arrogant, it's hard to distinguish the neurotic and the psychotic types. So, part of this neurosis and psychosis involves the body. People are breaking apart. People cannot live life anymore without them knowing that they just want their body back. They just want to be this way and this way. And so a lot of kids are also suffering through this at such a young age. A lot of these kids are now suffering the insecurities. They're thinking about the things that teenagers, older teenagers or older people suffer now. We are going to be destroyed. We are going to be punished as a nation. Whenever degeneracy gets too big, arrogance gets too great in the people, and destruction is long overdue through the 5th cycle of discipline. Point 7. Personal sense of destiny is related to hope. Hope, remember our confident expectation. So 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 12, we saw that passage. Romans chapter 5, verses 2 and 3. And so our passage in 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 12 says, where are we? There, here we are. Therefore, since we have such hope, such great hope, we employ much openness, confidence, and confidence, openness, and boldness. And what is that hope related to here? The Shekinah glory. This is when I first found out that the sooner you understand about the Shekinah glory, the sooner you develop a personal sense of destiny. But yes, hope, the Shekinah glory. So now, personal sense of destiny solves, personal sense of destiny is related to hope. 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 12, Romans chapter 5, verses 2 and 3. And let me go over the hope equation in the next video.